Our parents endure hardships for us throughout their entire lives. But how much do we really value their desires in their final days? Do we even understand what those elderly people want from us? Today's story is about the small wishes and desires of those elderly individuals. The title of the story is The Smell of the Soil. At the beginning of the story, we see a small town in Iran that is located far from the capital Tehran. This elderly gentleman you see is named Yusuf, who is the main character of our story. Yusuf works in a very small position at a private firm. As an office assistant, he finishes all the office tasks every day and returns home at the end of the day. This little boy you see is named Amir Ali. He's Yusuf's only grandson. And this is Yusuf's only daughter, Samira. Samira is married, and she lives in Tehran, where her husband works. Samira had been staying with her father along with her son, however, now her husband has bought a flat in there. Thinking about their child's future, Samira will soon move to her husband with her son. Samira wants her father to go with her to Tehran, because she loves him very much. Samira's mother passed away a long time ago, so there is no one to take care of her father here. However, this elderly man doesn't want to leave his home. He tried to explain this to his daughter, but she insisted, saying, "I will take you with me." His grandson Amir Ali loved him very much and always slept next to him. The next morning, grandfather and grandson were having fun together. Amir Ali is going to school now, and Yusuf will drop him off at school before heading to the office. Like every day, Yusuf came to his office today and was doing his usual task. Seeing the boy named Kareem, Yusuf called him over. Kareem and Yusuf work in the same position at the office, but they work in different shifts. Upon seeing Kareem, it was evident that Kareem was feeling down. Yusuf asked him about it, but Kareem didn't respond much. He only said, "Mansouri sir has called you." "This is Mansouri, he the boss of this office." He said to Yusuf, "I feel very bad to telling you this. Our company is running at a loss, so we've decided to lay off some employees starting next month." Yusuf then said, "That's why." Kareem looked upset, but he has an elderly mother at home, and I've heard his wife is also very sick. Mansouri then said, "We only need one of you, and we've chosen Kareem because he's younger, and you've gotten old." Upon hearing this, Yusuf's world shatters. He becomes very quiet. Slowly, he says, "You have made the right decision. Kareem needs this job more than I do." Mansouri then comforts him in various ways. The elderly man walks slowly to his workspace. It is evident that his heart is completely shattered. Being unemployed at his old age is not easy for him at all. At that moment, a dignified lady arrives. She tells Yusuf, "Mansouri sir has sent you this money. It includes your 1 month's salary and some extra." Yusuf did not feel happy at all about receiving today's salary, just as he used to feel when he received his monthly salary. Yusuf took his old bicycle and slowly rode home, and looks back for the last time at his workplace, where he worked for so many years. It seemed as though even the building was bidding him farewell today. Yusuf wandered the city streets aimlessly, unsure of where to go next. Eventually, the tired elderly man sat in a quiet spot and prepared to have his midday meal. But today, he found himself unable to eat. He leaves his lunchbox beside him. He took out the money from the envelope and counts the money and puts it back in the envelope. The tired man falls asleep right there, leaning on his hand. A lot of time passes. A lady walks by and, seeing Yusuf, thinks he might be a helpless person. She leaves some money beside him. Yusuf immediately wakes up and calls out to her from behind. In an angry tone, he says to the lady, "You must have mistakenly left your money here." After that, Yusuf angrily takes his bicycle and leaves the place, but his envelope with full of money and lunchbox remain there. When he gets home, Yusuf is in a very bad mood. His daughter comes to him and asks, "Dad, what happened? Are you okay?" Yusuf then shows Samira some flower plants and says, "Do you see this plant? It will turn yellow in the autumn, and it will die in the winter, and it will be young again in the spring. But in our lives, a new spring never comes again. A man remains old when he's old." Samira tells her father, "Dad, there is a unique beauty in aging. If we don't age, how will our children grow up?" Just then, Amir Ali calls out to his grandfather. Yusuf was about to go inside with his grandson when Samira says from behind, "Dad, I couldn't find your lunchbox in the bag today." Hearing this elderly man's world shatters again, because there was a lot of money with the lunchbox. Yusuf hurriedly opens his bag and starts searching for the lunchbox and the envelope. But those items weren't in the bag. He realizes that he must have left the lunchbox at the spot where he took a rest at noon. The next day, with a heavy heart, he goes back to that place to search for his lunchbox, but it wasn't there. the elderly man starts to feel chest pain and sweats a lot. Suddenly, his eyes catch sight of a poster on the wall. It says that a lunchbox has been found and there was also an address written there. Yusuf goes to the house at the address. There is also a notice posted in front of the house. Yusuf rings the doorbell and waits. After a while, a lady opens the door. Her name is Soraya. As soon as she sees Yusuf, she realizes that the lunch box belongs to him. Soraya tells Yusuf, "Please wait for a moment, I'll bring your things." Yusuf stood there and waited. But this waiting was a relief for him. The lady then returns the bag to Yusuf and says, "Check if everything is okay or not." Yusuf replies, "There's no need to check, I hope all is okay." The lady then offers Yusuf some rose water to drink. Seeing the rose water in a clay pot, Yusuf is a bit surprised because people in Iran no longer use clay pots much. However, this lady loves clay pots. She searched extensively in the market for clay pots but couldn't find any. Yusuf says, "I myself used to make pots. But I forgot about it when I saw no one buying them. These days, even kids don't play with such things. Now, even toys have changed." The lady then goes inside her house, and Yusuf sits in front of the house, drinking the rose water. The clay pot is placed right in front of him. Suddenly, a children's ball hits the pot, shattering it into pieces. Yusuf was looking at the broken pot. This clay pot was very dear to this lady. He then quietly leaves the place and goes to a park. There he sits on a bench. A short distance away we see a man. This man's name is Jamal. He comes to this park every day with a weighing machine. Yusuf talks with Jamal for a long time. As they chat, it becomes noon. They sit down together to eat, sharing their lunch boxes. But Yusuf can't stop thinking about the broken pot. After finishing his meal, he goes to the local market to look for a clay pot. Despite searching extensively, he can't find a single pot anywhere. The tired elderly man was splashing water on his face, and suddenly it occurred to him that he can make the clay pot himself. Without delay, he returns home and prepares his old workspace. Samira helps her father get everything ready. Yusuf prepares the clay for making the pot, but his first attempts are unsuccessful, and Samira was smiling at that. After many attempts, Yusuf finally creates a perfect clay pot, just like the one the lady had. Samira also realizes that the clay pot is very special to her father, though she still doesn't know why. The pot is fired in the kiln, and once it is ready for use, Yusuf sets off towards the lady's house with the clay pot. Filled with hope in heart, the elderly man rings the doorbell, but there is no response from inside. He rings the bell again, but still no answer. Yusuf quietly sits in front of the house and waits. A long time passes. Eventually, the lady named Soraya comes walking towards the house. Yusuf is very happy to see her. He hands her the pot and says to the lady, "That day, I broke your pot, so I brought this for you today." The lady really likes the clay pot and asks, "Where did you get it?" Yusuf replies, "I didn't find it anywhere. I told you before, I used to make pots. I made this one with my own hands." Soraya is very happy and offers him some money in exchange, but Yusuf refuses to take any. The lady then asks him to wait for a moment and goes inside the house. Yusuf waits in front of the house. After some time, she comes back with a bottle of rose water for him. Yusuf says, "You didn't have to do that." The elderly man then gives her his address and says, "I don't have a job anymore, so if anyone needs more clay pots like this, please let me know, it would help me a lot." Yusuf then puts the bottle of rose water into a bag on his bicycle and heads home. That night, the elderly man had a beautiful dream about that lady. But at the very end of the dream, the clay pot he had made fell from her hand and it's broke, and Yusuf then woke up. The next afternoon, while Samira was watering the flowers in their yard, someone knocked on their front door. Samira opens the door. That lady named Soraya has come to their house. Soraya showed her the note Yusuf had given her and said, "He didn't write his name here, but he makes very good clay pots." At first, Samira didn't understand, but soon she realized that her father had gone through so much trouble to make the pot only for this lady. Samira warmly welcomed her. She invited Soraya inside and said, "My father hasn't returned from the office yet, but he will be home soon." Samira then started chatting with the lady. The lady asked Samira, "I don't see your mother around." Samira replies, "My mother passed away 10 years ago." Samira then cleverly asks the lady, "Why did you come alone? Why didn't you come with your husband?" The lady responds, "My husband passed away many years ago. I have a son and a daughter, they live in the city. I stay here alone." Meanwhile, Yusuf returns home from the office. He is very surprised to see the lady at his house, and they engage in conversation. The lady primarily came here to order a new clay pot. Yusuf is pleased to hear this. He tells the lady, last night I had a nightmare that the pot is broken. Is your pot okay? The lady remains silent. Finally, she softly says, believe me, it wasn't my fault. Later on, the two elderly people continue to engage in amusing conversations and arguments. Samira observes their joyful interactions from a distance, regarding her father's happiness. She tells her father, Dad, I'm going to prepare the workshop. As Samira leaves, the lady asks Yusuf, why didn't you tell your daughter the truth, that you don't have a job now? Yusuf takes a deep breath and replies, I just couldn't. She has her own problems. If she finds out I don't have a job, she'll worry about me. I don't want to add more problems to her life. I'll find a job before they leave. As the lady prepares to leave, Yusuf says, don't you want to see the workshop? You said you like the smell of the clay. They all go to the workshop, where Yusuf passionately starts making a pot. The lady watches him attentively as he molds the clay. Upon seeing the lady, it was clear that she was feeling very shy. That evening, Yusuf was sitting in front of the house. Samira then approaches him and says, your son-in-law called me. He says he has finished furnishing the house and is waiting for us to come. I feel very happy when we're all together. This statement angers Yusuf, and he tells his daughter, why can't you understand one thing, that I can't be a burden to my son-in-law? Samira reassures her father, saying, Dad, you've taken care of us for so many years. Now it's our turn to take care of you. Yusuf replies firmly, these two things are not the same. You all are my responsibility, and I will become a burden to you one day. Samira won't hear of it, asserting that she can't leave her father alone like that. Then she suggests to her father, then you should get remarried. Her father replies, as I am, I'm fine. Yusuf then leaves from there. Before he leaves, Samira tells him, that lady named Soraya is very nice. Her husband also passed away. After hearing his daughter's words, Yusuf feeling somewhat ashamed, and he leaves from there. The following day, he goes to the park to hang out with Jamal. Meanwhile, Samira still doesn't know that her father no longer has a job. During lunchtime today, when Jamal and Yusuf sit down together, Yusuf notices that he hasn't brought his lunchbox. On the flip side, while cleaning the house, Samira finds the lunchbox left by her father. Concerned about what her elderly father might eat, so Samira takes a taxi and goes to her father's office. Upon reaching the office, Samira learns the truth that her father's job is no more. In the evening, Yusuf returns home as usual. However, upon arriving, he realizes that his daughter is very angry. Yusuf asks his grandson, why is your mother so angry? But Amir Ali doesn't say anything. After a while, Yusuf nervously enters his daughter's room. Samira pushes forward his lunchbox towards him. Yusuf says, so that's why you are angry. I just forgot it. It's not a big deal. I ate a really nice bread with cheese instead. But Samira remains silent, looking at him angrily. Now, Yusuf can understand that his daughter knows everything. Samira then tells her father, I used to believe we tell each other everything, because we have no one except the two of us. Even when Mama was alive, we were so close. You are not only my father but also a friend. I never thought we can hide something from each other. But today, I realized it. Yusuf says, you misunderstood me. I knew you have enough problems. I didn't want you to be a trouble. I will find a job soon. Don't worry. Samira replies, Dad, it's not about that. The point is, you can talk to anyone when you are happy. But who do you talk to when you are sad? If I can't be by your side during your tough times, if I can't understand your feelings, then where is my purpose as your child? Yusuf consoles his daughter with much sympathy, and she begins to soften. Samira then asks her father, who have you been having lunch with these past few days? Yusuf answers, I found a very good friend in the park. His name is Jamal. Would you like to meet him? Samira happily agrees. The next day, Yusuf, Samira, and Amir Ali go to the park to meet Jamal. There, Yusuf introduces Jamal to his family. Jamal praises Samira's cooking a lot. Samira says, today I've cooked even more beautiful dishes for you. They sit in a corner of the park. Samira then says to her father, Dad, now that you don't have your job anymore, how will you stay here alone? Let's rent out our house or sell it and move to Tehran. Hearing about selling their own house, Yusuf becomes very upset. In the evening, Samira asks her father for forgiveness. Yusuf says, I haven't been angry with you. When you grow old like me, you'll understand everything. Gradually, you'll realize the importance of your own home. For an elderly person like me, what else is there except memories surrounded by this home? Samira apologizes and leaves from there after saying, Dad, I'll never ask you to come with us again. I just wanted us all to be together. The next day, Yusuf secretly visits Soraya. that respectable lady. But at one point, Soraya saw him. Feeling very embarrassed, Yusuf quickly takes his bicycle and leaves from there, and the lady watches Yusuf from behind as he departs. That evening, Samira and Yusuf were talking. Samira has decided within herself that they have to move to Tehran without her father. Yusuf tells his daughter, "I have been thinking a lot about what you said last night. You don't need to worry about me. I will go with you." Samira is very surprised to hear her father's words. Yusuf continues, "I am thinking of selling our house. I will never come back here again." With tears in his eyes and pain in his heart, Yusuf walks into his room. Samira was looking at her father with steadfast eyes. The following day, father and daughter were walking towards Soraya's house. They are heading there for the final farewell to her. However, Yusuf was very shy. Seeing him, it seemed as if he had returned to his childhood. Indeed, adults often go through such phases. At one point, they become children. Samira tells her father, "This is a very common thing. We have simply come to bid farewell to her." But Yusuf was ashamed, so when he was about to leave, the respectable lady opened the door of the house. Soraya's residence was very beautiful, adorned with rose gardens all around. Samira wanted to wander around to see the rose garden. In fact, Samira gave these two elderly people a chance to talk a little. Yusuf was very nervous and excited. They both were talking. But when Yusuf said that he was leaving here forever, Soraya's mind was somewhat upset. Then, Soraya angrily said, "In the last moments of life, should parents only sacrifice themselves for their children?" In response, Yusuf said, "This is the circle of life, our children will do the same for their children." Yusuf then took out a letter from his pocket, which had a poem written on it. Acting a bit, Yusuf says, "I forgot to bring my glasses. Could you please read this poem for me?" Soraya then starts reading the poem beautifully. It was a love poem. Yusuf was listening the poem with great fascination. Once the poem ends, it's time for them to bid farewell. Samira bids goodbye first from the lady. As a token of memory, Soraya gives Yusuf 2 bottles of rose water. One is good for the heart and the other for nerves. Yusuf bid farewell to the lady and left the house. For a few moments, Yusuf's life seems to pause. But embracing the reality, he strides forward. The respectable lady also gets very sad. When Yusuf and his daughter return home, they find Samira's husband has come from Tehran. They are very pleased to see Ahmed. Ahmed gives them another piece of good news. He has bought a new car. Samira asks her husband, "Where did you get the money to buy the car?" Ahmed replies, "I bought it on installments. Once this house is sold, we'll pay off the car money." Hearing this, the elderly man's face became completely dry. But he doesn't let anyone understand anything. Everyone wants to go out in their new car. Samira requests her father to accompany them, but Yusuf says, "You guys go ahead, I'll stay at home." After that, when Samira is about to leave with her family, then Yusuf calls Samira from behind, asking her, "Are you happy?" Samira replies, "Yes dad, I am." Everyone goes for a drive in their new car, and the elderly man continues to gaze at his house attached with memories accumulated over the years. Then he goes to his workshop. He was looking at those things with much disappointment and frustration. Eventually, he broke all the clay pots there. The elderly man was crying a lot. At night, everyone was having dinner together. Yusuf gets up from there while eating, and tells everyone, "I don't feel like eating anymore, you guys continue." Ahmed asks Samira, "What's wrong with dad?" Samira says nothing happened to him. At night, Ahmed goes to the workshop. There, he finds everything broken. He calls Samira. Upon seeing the workshop, Samira understands her father's state of mind. Yusuf was packing his bag. Samira then comes there and leaves 2 pieces of broken clay pots inside her father's bag. Yusuf understands that his daughter has seen everything. Samira asks her father, "Why did you break them? You made them with love." Then Yusuf tells his daughter, "It's good to break some things of love in life, then you don't have to miss them anymore." The next day, the elderly man bid farewell to Jamal. Jamal tells him, "If you ever come back to this city, remembers this friend. I'll be here in this park." Now, it's time to leave. Everyone is leaving the house with their luggage. Yusuf is the last to leave, and for the last time, he closes the door of the house. They set off for Tehran in their newly bought car. Yusuf gazes out through the car window, watching his own city for the last time. When he will meet this city again, he does not know. The daylight fades into darkness, and they arrive in the bustling city of Tehran, and within a moment, they reach their new address. Ahmed was showing their entire house to his wife. Yusuf was also watching the house. The house has only 2 bedrooms, so Yusuf will have to sleep with his grandson. Late at night, Yusuf lies down beside his grandson. Before sleeping he sips the rosewater given by that dignified lady. From the next morning starts Yusuf's routine life in the boring and confined space. He has to spend his entire day in this brick's cage. Samira can understand by looking at her father that he doesn't really liking this confined life. The daylight fades again into darkness, and the elderly gentleman sleeps again. The next morning, Yusuf himself was taking care of the caretaker's work in that building. But the caretaker restricts him. Actually, Yusuf's time here does not passing at all, so he is trying to pass the time doing that. This elderly gentleman had always been busy with various tasks in his own city. He used to ride his bicycle around the entire city, and now, he has to stay confined within four walls all day. There's no one to talk to here, everyone is a robot and they all are busy with their own work. Yusuf is gradually getting fed up to this confined life. The next morning, a neighbor complains to Ahmed about Yusuf. Yesterday, Yusuf apparently went up and down in the elevator 20 times. Ahmed apologizes to neighbor, and he informs Samira about this matter. Yusuf overhears these discussions. The elderly gentleman feels deeply saddened inside. Samira understands that her father is enduring a lot of distress. She also shares this with her husband. Samira says, I am a selfish. I came here thinking about my future, but my father came here thinking about his happiness. He has sacrificed so much for me in his life, will I ever be able to do the same for his happiness? Can I return to that city for the happiness of my father? Maybe not, because we, children, are very selfish. Ahmed consoles his wife, assuring her that everything will be fine. The next morning, Samira is preparing breakfast when Amir Ali comes and asks her, Mom, where did Grandpa go? Samira rushes to her father's room and finds everything neatly arranged, but none of his father's things are in that room. Samira understands that her father has left from here. Amir Ali hands a letter to his mother. In the letter, it says, Dear Samira, I have tried so hard, this city is not for me. Excuse me, if I made you sad. If I told you, I couldn't have returned to my own city if I wanted to. Do not worry about this old man. I will be fine in my city. On the flip side, Yusuf returns to his house. After returning of his own house, Yusuf takes a deep breath. Suddenly, Yusuf notices that the flower bushes of his house have been watered a few moments ago. Suddenly, he hears a noise from the workshop. Maybe someone is inside. Yusuf becomes afraid. Just then, that elderly lady named Soraya comes out from inside. Yusuf is very happy to see her. He asks her, What are you doing here, and how did you come in? Soraya says that I had the keys. The day before leaving, Samira and her husband came to me. Samira knew how much you love this house. She knew that you would not be able to live in Tehran, so they gave me the keys to the house, and they told me that they would never sell this house. Sometimes, I come here to water the flowers and check on other things, so the flowers remain fresh, because I also believed that you would come back. Yusuf is very happy to hear this. Meanwhile, the phone in the house rings. Yusuf realizes that it is a call from his daughter. Yusuf receives the phone and apologizes to his daughter. Samira is also very happy today. She tells her father, Dad, I will come to see you every month. Like his father, Samira then asks, Dad, are you happy? Through the window, Yusuf looks at Soraya and tells his daughter, I'm so happy. And amidst this moment of happiness, today's story comes to an end here. Yusuf was able to return to his place of happiness. But in reality, many parents also bid farewell to their own end-of-life desires and aspirations for their children's happiness. Remember, in today's world, you may be very busy or unable to see your parents' wishes and desires. However, how you treat your parents, maybe you will get the same treatment from your child later in life. So friends, that's it for today. Be well all the parents of the world. Let me know how you liked the story by commenting. If you liked it, do hit the like button, and if not, feel free to dislike. Stay well, stay healthy. Goodbye for today. Thank you so much.